the way, plant peace with each season. Show me the way, I'm so ready and willing. Help me to heal myself, that I may heal those around me. Help me to heal our greater self. Show me today, love triumphs over reason. Show me today, right where my heart is beating. Yeah. Help me to reach myself, that I may reach those around me. Help me to reach the greater self. Yeah. I like the clapping, yeah. Help me to reach the greater self. Help me, help me, help me. Do, 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 do. It's our greater self. Yeah. Do, 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 do. It's our greater self. Yeah. Show me the way into joy and freedom. Show me the way, I'm so willing and able. Help me to heal myself, that I may heal those around me. Help me to reach the greater self. Yeah. Help me, help me, help me. Show me the way to sow love and compassion, yeah. Show me the way, we're so willing and able. Help us to reach ourselves, that we may reach those around. Help us to reach the greater self. Help me, help me, help me. Help me to reach our greater self. Help me, help me, help me. Do, 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 do. Our greater self, yeah. Help me, help me, help me. Do, 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 do. Our greater self, yeah. Help me, help me, help me. Do, 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 do. Our greater self, yeah. Help me, help me, help me. Do, 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 do. Our greater self.
I agree. It's fun to co-create with Rafe. You've been invited on a journey. This is not your normal type of service. This is not your grandmother's church or center or synagogue or temple or mosque. Well, this is going to be interactive. All of you hopefully got a piece of paper that looks like this in your program. Some people, I noticed that one person was filling it out early. Wait, see what the music does to you, and then join me on this journey so that you can get the full effect of everything. I just want to welcome some people that are viewing from various places. So let's see. Erica, who just moved to New York. Hello, dear. Yes. And we have a gentleman from Maine, and let's see. Reverend Ryan from Maine, and Maria from London. Thank you very much. And we all remember Beverly, Leonard, and Sandy. They're in Yuma, Arizona, and they're checked in too. Thank you so much. And others that I won't get to, so thank you for viewing. I just need to say a few things. This caravan, this is not your normal spiritual center, but we are a way to connect with the infinite. One of the things that we often say is that all paths lead to God. All ways, a path is a way. But that's not true. All paths that are lined and cemented in love, abundance, and original goodness are ways to God. So if there is a way that is discriminatory or prejudice or celebrates division rather than inclusion, I don't believe that that is a way to the infinite, because the infinite is good. And love includes, love embraces. So all embracing ways are ways to the one. And I particularly like a magazine called Spirituality and Health. And in that, I also like the works of Rabbi Shapiro. Rabbi Rami Shapiro. That's a mouthful. God bless him. But he addresses spiritual questions from all sorts of people and with all different backgrounds. And this is an interesting one. I'm a moderately religious person engaged to a more seriously religious person. And before his pastor will marry us, he wants to know if I believe Jesus is the Son of God. I'm ambivalent. What would I say? Is God Jesus' father? And Rabbi Shapiro says, yes, and his mother, and his first cousin on his Aunt Elizabeth's side, and his Aunt Elizabeth. God is everything and everyone. This is what Jesus teaches when he says, I am in the Father, and you are in me, and I am in you. And it's what St. Paul implies when he defines God as that in which we live, move, and have our being. And what Hildegard of Bingen reveals when she writes, all beings are sparks of the divine, emerging from God like sunlight from the sun. We are the light of the world. That's what we teach. I hope that that resonates with you. If it does, you're in the right place for it today. And what I know about all paths, all traditions that are leading us to the one, they have stories. Every tradition has a story, and we're going to get into a story today because I like telling stories. And today's story, like all stories, is a soul story. It was mentioned 2 weeks ago by Mark Anthony Lord when he said that, we're going through a transitionary times, and one of the transitionary stories is the story of Exodus. Now, this is very appropriate because our church is going through transition. And the definition of transition is the process of changing from one state or condition to another. So it doesn't, not state like Washington to Oregon, but state of consciousness, state of awareness, state of experience. When we go from one to the other, that is called a transition. And now I understand why, because I always wondered why we did these little euphemism things. When somebody died, we said they made their transition. I always wondered, what's that mean? And now I finally get it. Oh, it's only been 40 years. I'm getting it. Because they made a transition from being identified as their body to now being identified as their spirit. We're now making a transition of being matter-centric to being spirit-centric. It's a different state of consciousness, a different state of awareness. So that's what we get to experience in this thing called transition, meaning someone laid their body down. We're not going to lay our body down today, but hopefully we'll lay down some other stuff. Because Paul also said, daily I die and daily I am reborn. But you don't get to be reborn unless you're willing to die. So who's up for it today? Thank you. Only a few. Well, there's a majority, but there's holdouts. Right over there, that section right there. That's okay. Oh, that's okay. I'm glad that you're not just buying in. It's just go with the story, though, see what happens. So the story is the story of Moses and leading, what have you heard in the story, as leading the children of Israel out of Egypt and into the promised land. So let's start with Egypt. I'm going to be jumping around just a tiny bit, but everything has a vibration, a state of consciousness with it. And the vibration or the state of consciousness that has been associated with Egypt, because the people that wrote the story came from Egypt, and their experience of Egypt was one of being captive, confined, and I love it. Rafe shared with me yesterday that in Hebrew, the word for Egypt meant narrow. So you feel confined when things are narrow. When you don't have much choice, it's narrow. When there's no hope of a future getting better, it's narrow. And when it's narrow and there's confinement and there's captivity and you don't feel like there's liberty, there is struggle. Now, I need to say that having studied most world religions, the end story for most world religions is spiritual liberation that leads to mental and physical liberation. The end story of all world religions is liberation. The other end of that is captivity. Now, sometimes people are physically captive, but what's worse is when they're mentally and spiritually captive, because then they can never get out. Nelson Mandela spent 26 years confined in a prison, but they did not confine his mind, so when he got out, boom, boom, boom. That's what happens when you honestly confine your liberty and that you create a state of consciousness within, and that state of consciousness must create an effect. So what was happening in Egypt is that people had been living in, I'm not sure that they were slaves or just indentured servants. It doesn't really matter. They did not feel they were free to leave, and they did not know that there was a better life. And it had been going on, supposedly, according to the story, for 400 years. 400 years they had lived in a place where they had to toil all the time, but saw no future aside from that toiling, not only for themselves, but for their children and their children's children. And now that struggle, that suffering. Why is it struggle and suffering? Because there's a difference between enduring and suffering. Enduring is you know you're going to get through it. How many of you have gone to the dentist and you endured it? Suffering is thinking you'll never get rid of that toothache. Suffering is seeing no end, and they saw no end. So they were not only captive, and it was not only a narrow experience of life, they saw no end. That's hard. So take your piece of paper and ask yourself, is there an area of your life that you see no end to the struggle, no end to the captivity? I can't seem to escape or be free of this thing. Let your holy self answer. Ask your highest wisdom self if there is an answer to that. And if there is, write it down. Because let's just get all the juice out of this wonderful thing. And since struggling is not just a head trip, it's a body trip, I'm going to invite Rafe up and sing a song of struggle. Let the body resonate with that cry of, ugh, so that if your head says, I'm not struggling, listen to your body. What feels tight? What feels heavy? Where do you feel constricted? Let the music open you up to that which you have been putting up with.
The words of this chant, this struggle, were the words that, as the story goes, that Moses spoke in the desert, pleading with God to heal his sister Miriam.
Na
And so allow yourself to just kind of feel that, like, it's been going on forever, forever, forever. That's suffering. That's confinement. That's a narrow life. That's Egypt. But here's the thing. This is so cool. Wherever there is constriction, there is the universe speaking liberation. Wherever there is darkness, there is the light wanting to be seen, to be recognized, and to be followed. There is never any place where God is not. Therefore, hope and truth resides everywhere. Even in our darkest times, even in our struggling, even in the stuff, there is always a message. And in Greek terminology, it would be that wonderful Pandora's box where all the trouble was given to humankind to keep them in their place. That's the Greek idea of God. But the last thing was hope. And hope is what could keep humanity alive. Well, this is not a Greek story. This is a Jewish story. So the light came in the form of Moses. Now, how Moses got there and how he got the light, well, that'll get to in a minute. But right now, we just want to say that the people listened to Moses say, I will set you free. There is a brighter future. I've seen another place. I'm going to take you there. There's a place where you do not have to be enslaved. There is a place, and I'll call it milk and honey because the land is fertile. You don't have to work hard, and you don't have to belong to somebody else. You could actually own the land and own your freedom and own your prosperity and own your abundance. What do you think? Oh, that's not what they said. They said, who are you? And aren't you the son of a Pharaoh? And what are you doing? See, sometimes messages of encouragement, they don't fall on deaf ears. They fall on non-believing ears. So back to us as a center, as our story, our collective story. About 2 years ago, we were under a huge weight and had a narrow experience of church. And that was because we had a large mortgage. Principal and interest came to about $60,000 a month. I know, sucked the air right out of here, didn't it? I love seeing open, gaping mouths. Now, it's not that we didn't have money and that we always paid our bills, and because of a wonderful dedicated staff and great volunteers, we still did a lot, but there was always that narrow thing of, we got to pay the rent again. And it was heavy. Now, because God is our source, we got abundant gifts from people. We had money in the bank, but it was still a huge burden to think, so much of what we're doing is not going into programs. So much of what we're doing is going into just have a building. And so Moses was sent to the board of trustees, brothers and sisters. Moses came in the form of Karen Schiller. And she had just got out of debt, so she said, you know what, we should just get out of debt. Like, right. Oh, yeah, sure. How many of you have heard things like that? Well, you should just, how many of you have just heard those things? And you go, right, you don't know my experience, you don't know my story? Which is kind of what we did, but the board of trustees comes from a higher place, so we said, yeah, let's envision, let's hold it. We're going to be debt-free. Now, do you see free is liberty as opposed to we can have a little more money after the rent is paid or the mortgage is paid? Do you see that that's different? See, having more money after the mortgage is paid is sort of like, I'm going to put up with this, but I'll get to, have ice cream. It's still a burden. She was the messenger. We started to believe it. Well, here's how I believed it. Sure. So I started buying lottery tickets. I was doing my part. So how many of you have heard that really strange little euphemism, move your feet? My feet were taking me to grocery stores, and I was buying lottery tickets so that we could come up with over $4 million to pay this thing off. So, reading from a biblical perspective, from a metaphysical perspective, all characters in the Bible are characters within ourselves. And so within each and every one of us, there is always an aspect of us that wants to hear a different story. Sometimes it's a download. Like I got a download once that said, you're going to be a minister. I knew it was a download because that's the last thing I wanted to do. And then Karen gave us a download. Sometimes angels, which are high thoughts, come directly to you, and sometimes they come through someone. But there are always high thoughts available. There is no low condition that a high thought won't solve. Are we willing to listen both internally and also to the people talking around us? So now look at your piece of paper and ask yourself, what message of encouragement have I received recently that gives me hope for a brighter future? Because I bet you anything, somewhere, in some way, shape, or form, you've heard something. Even if it is watching someone else have the life you want, that's encouragement. Because if you can see it, it's in you. It might have been a random statement, or it could have just been, it's time to move on. What have you heard recently that encouraged you to let you know that you could have a brighter future? Now let's go back a little bit to Moses. Moses was trained in the high wisdom of the Egyptian mystery schools. That happened because he was part of the royal family. At the end of mystery schools, whether it was in Egypt or in Greece, those are the only two I know about. I'm sure there were others. The end of it was an experience of such unity and oneness with everything that you felt your own power. And it is said of Greek mystery schools, once somebody had gone through them, they were never afraid of death again because they knew there was no such thing. They were absolutely fearless. So Moses had been trained in that type of wisdom. And in the end of the Egyptian mystery school, people came to the awareness that there's only the one, there's only God, there's only I am that I am. I am that I am, I am that I am, I am that I am. I am that I am was written in the high places of the Holy of Holies in Egyptian temples. So he grew up with that. So it's not original. He had it in him. And when he had tried to protect one of his not brothers, but brethren, and did something that got him in trouble, and he fled Egypt, and he went to a fertile land and was working for his father-in-law, he saw a bush that was burning bright but not consumed. It was pure light. It was like one of those instances where there is, this revelation that everything's holy. And he remembered, I am that I am. And then he thought to himself, there's such power in knowing that. What if I took these people that I have compassion for and I gave them something besides just a meal? What if I gave them the secret to real spiritual power? Now, I can't train them. They can't go through the years of initiation that I went through. But what if I gave them the basis of what that teaching was? What if I had them start out with what I ended up with? I am that I am. There is only one. The Lord God is one. Not the Lord God's one like there's one God. Too many people interpret it that way. No, the Lord God is one. What if they knew that? Then they'd know they were one with that one. And if it protected anything, it would protect them also. What if that was the foundation of a nation? Not just for the royal few, the ones that could actually go through this process, but what if it was available to everybody? So in a way, I am that I am. When he was sold, who do I tell them? What am I supposed to talk about when I go back to these guys? And you say I'm supposed to go back there and say, yeah, liberation. And God said, well, tell them I am that I am. Oh, that's a big one. But another way of saying it is, say oneness is our God. And we are bound by our dedication to that one. And that we're going to take this tribe, and it will not be founded on place, but on a connection to I am that I am. What if that is what you said to them? See, in a way, Karen was a Moses because out of incredible debt and her spiritual practice, she was lifted out of debt into abundance. And Moses was saying, I have been lifted out of servitude, and I now see my oneness with everything, and I want to share that with you. Just like Karen wanted to, and still wants to, share her consciousness of abundance with others. When you're lifted, you really want to share. Whatever you have gained or acquired, you really want to share. Because Spirit shares, it gives, it magnifies. So I'm going to invite Rafe up to share with you some more words from Moses. Because as he stood there and he was in awe of this bush that was not consumed, these are the words that he said.
Moses spoke Hineni. It's a beautiful word, and it basically means, Hineni, here I am. Here I am. Use me. Make me an instrument. Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Would you sing it with us? Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Here I am, here I am. Here I am, here I am. Sing it out. Here I am, here I am. 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 Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni. Hineni, Hineni, Hineni.
The thing I love about this story is it just went off in me. You know, some people are willing to light a candle and have the smoke go up to God. There's so many people that are willing to talk to spirit through some sort of emissary, through some other person, through the priest, through the priestess, to like have it behind a wall or a curtain when they're Holy of Holies. And we're just willing to just take the blessings as they sort of, you know, overflow and pour out at us. And yet Moses was willing to look at God face to face, to like see its brilliance and know that he was worthy of it. Here I am. And if that character is our character, there's a part of, you know, I'm just like, I don't want a secondhand God. I don't want to hear about what other people have thought about God. I don't want you to believe in God because I believe in God. I want to be contagious so that you get that right where you are, God is, and you can say, here I am anytime, and go toe to toe and cry it out, cuss it out, blabber it out, but you're not scurrying to be okay. Within each and every one of you is a Moses that will see the divinity in anything and say, here I am, use me. Let's have that song again. Who's up for it? So filled with that light, filled with it. He was wholly filled with it. You know, have you heard of full of it? He was full of it. But it was good stuff. It was light. It was his own confidence. He was filled with that presence of I am. And he, like Gandhi when he stood up against the British Empire. This was Moses going back and standing up against the Pharaoh, the highest form of government at that time. And he said to the children of Israel, he said, guess what? I'm here to set you free. They said, nah. Okay, if it's easy. Now, there's a part in the Bible that I did not understand until I was sitting over there this morning. And there's a part in the Bible where it says God hardened the heart of the Pharaoh so that he wouldn't let the people go. I thought, my God doesn't do that. My God does not harden hearts, and my God does not do mean stuff. But it makes a good story because it had to get dramatic. They were not going to lose comfort without some drama. How many of you know there's a part of you that says, let's go, and there's another part that says, next week. There's a part of you that wants to grow and be on the edge, and there's a part of you that wants comfort and what's normal. And even though life was a struggle, it had become normal, and at least they knew how to cope with it. But out there, they didn't know what it was, and they didn't know they'd be able to cope. So they questioned. So what happened is the Pharaoh kept getting more and more restrictive with them. And then there'd be miracles. And God doesn't send frogs and blood and take away firstborn children. That's not true. But it was just the dramatic way of saying that sometimes characters within ourselves don't want to move until it gets really dramatic. See, drama can be good. If we are not willing to pursue a greater life and move towards it, we will be pushed. We will be pushed by circumstances. Because it is the will of life to grow, to expand, to move beyond. And sometimes crisis can be our best friend. If we finally move forward. If we finally are willing to leave what was. For us, the crisis was that the bank that we had our loan with decided that they were not going to renew our 10-year balloon. Now, we've had lots of balloons since I've been here. We've had balloons every 10 years. A nonprofit's given a 10-year balloon, and every year we've just renewed. Every 10 years we would just renew things. So I was expecting it would be renewed. Well, the Pharaoh of U.S. Bank said, no. Let my mortgage go, I said. But the crisis was, see, we would have been willing to continue to pay that high price until finally the drama of being pushed out made us entertain options. So that this property will now be inhabited in 6 months by Children's Hospital so that they can continue to do their good work with children. And we will go into something good, because if it's good for Children's Hospital, it must be good for us. And like the children of Israel, they didn't know what they were moving into, and we don't either. Now, we know we have an interim place, which is the Sinai. But there will be something, because I trust the I Am. That is the foundation of my faith and the foundation of everything we teach. So eventually, the children of Israel got up off their, what was that word you used? Ass. And started marching. And what's so interesting is that when you finally start to move, the universe moves too. Have you noticed that? In a way, so can you understand why the sea parting, whether it did or not? I don't think it did, literally. But I know that that's what happens when our soul finally says, I'm out of here. I'm moving to a higher ground. Things shift. Let's have an exodus.
You feel that groove? Maybe you want to rise up as you're able. We got a little movement. We got a little movement going on. Exodus, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Movement of your people, oh yeah, a little movement, yeah. We got an exodus, oh yeah, yeah. A movement of your people. Oh yeah, we're gonna move. Men and people will fight you down when you see the light. Let me tell you, if you're not wrong, then everything is alright. And we're gonna walk, oh yes, through the roads of creation, yeah. Oh yes, and we the generation tried, true. Oh, we're here for your liberation, your exaltation, your vibration, your I am that, I am that. Oh, I am that, I am movement. Oh, we got an exodus. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Movement of your people. Oh yeah. Oh, we gonna move it. Exodus. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Movement of your people. Oh yes. Oh, we gonna move. Now open your eyes. Yeah, and look within. Oh, are you satisfied? Are you satisfied? Oh, with the life you're living, yeah. Oh yes, 'cause we know where we're going. Yeah, we know where we're from. We live in Babylon, yes. We going to the Holy Land. Come on, Exodus. Oh yeah, move out. Movement of your people. Oh yeah. Oh, we gonna move it. Oh yes, we got it. Exodus. Movement of your people. Yes, oh, we got a movement. Oh, we got a movement. Movement of your people. Oh, yes, movement of your people. Oh, movement of your people. Oh, we got a movement of your people. Oh, we got a movement. Oh, we got a movement. Feels good. Oh, we got a movement. Oh, we got a movement. Yeah, we got a movement. Oh, we got a movement. Oh, we got a movement. Oh, we got a movement.
This morning on Facebook, I almost said, oh, we're getting music from the Doors and Jacob Marley. Thank you, some of you got that. Instead of Bob Marley. Anyway, so it would just be great. You move. It should be done. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't. See, many people have had transitions out of a physical land of struggle, but not the mental land of struggle. Many people transition physically, but not mentally and spiritually and emotionally, and therefore they recreate what they had. It shows up in the form of Moses sending 4 groups of 3 men, one representing each tribe of Israel. He sends them out and he says, go tell me what this beautiful land is we're looking at. Tell me what you see there, because they could look over into this green, beautiful, gorgeous land that looks so fertile. 3 of the groups came back and said, oh, we can't go there. They're giants. They've got weapons we've never seen before, and we can't go there. But Joshua and 2 of his buddies came back, and they had baskets filled with fruit and grapes and grain, and they said, oh, it's the best place we've ever been. We got to go. And God said, you can't go because these people didn't believe. And so this generation must die before you can take your promise. And if we're all characters, we can't have part of us believe and then the rest want to hold back. We actually have to die to what holds us back. So let the Holy Spirit right now, because there's an inner teacher always available, let it reveal to you your promised land. Write 3 words or 4 words that represent your promise. What are you moving into? What is Spirit leading you into? Write 3 words, 4 words. Don't write a description, just what comes to you. And you'll start to get an image of a life lived more fully. Spirit says, look at this. You're in a desert. Look at this. And according to the story, it took 40 years for all the old Egyptian beliefs and people and characters to die out, so that a whole new generation, a whole new regeneration could move into the promise. We can be regenerated and moved into a greater promise. So let yourself know what old thoughts or beliefs must die so I can finally claim my land of promise. Because if you don't let those die, you will recreate the past. I think you've all heard the story of a gentleman sitting on a bench outside of a lovely little village town. Somebody drives up and says, I'm moving in. What's this town like? And the wise man on the bench said, well, what was it like in the last town you were in? Oh, they were grumpy. Oh, same here. Another person drives up and stops and asks the gentleman on the bench, so what's the people like here? Because I want to move here. I'm thinking about coming here. What's it like here? He said, well, what was it like in the last town you were in? Oh, they were so giving and so friendly, and all the doors were always open, and everybody was hospitable. Oh, same here. We always take us with us. But if you know where you are promised, where Spirit is urging you, and you know what to let go of, then I'm hoping that you have the spiritual tools to let those go, because that's the purpose of most of our educational programs. Our educational programs and what we do here is we allow us and support us and encourage all of us to accept our future and release the past, so that we're moving forward by promise, not scurrying away from what we're afraid of. And then, yay, hooray! Finally, all the character traits that had kept the children wandering around trying to find their true identity, all of those character traits, they died. And the newborn traits entered triumphantly into the divine promise. Trumpets blasting. But that's another story. Trumpets and another story. For now, let's stand up and sing.
We shall live again. Oh, yes, we shall.